Zoom meetings have become the new norm, whether it comes to business meetings, classes, birthday parties, or even weddings. And I believe that Zoom meetings or meetings on other virtual platforms such as Zoom are here to stay even after the pandemic is over. So today, to give you some very specific tips, public speaking tips on Zoom, I am excited and honored to have my guest, Harvey Taphorn. Harvey has been a leadership trainer for 16 years, a Toastmaster for 30 years, winning Toastmasters speech contests as far as the district level is something that's not new for him. He's done it many, many times. But perhaps what may be new for him is winning these contests virtually over Zoom in the past year. And fun fact, I met Harvey myself through a Toastmasters contest in 2015. Welcome, Harvey.
Welcome. 2015, wow, that seems like such a long time ago.
Yep. So my first question, Harvey, is how long have you been Zooming?
I've been Zooming like most people on the planet since COVID hit, and for Canada, that's March 2020.
So I'm just going to dig right in. I have a lot of questions because I haven't done so much Zoom myself. So there are some technical questions and then some not so technical questions. So my first one happens to be a technical one. So I've noticed in Zoom meetings that most people will take care to look good for camera. They'll at least dress up on the top half, even if the bottom half may be just pajamas or boxers. But what sometimes people don't realize is that in addition to seeing them on camera, people are also seeing their background in the camera frame. So do you have any tips about background?
As far as background goes, the simpler, the better. And try to have the light in front of you, as in my window's over to the side here, but do not have your window behind or the strong lights behind, because you get into what is known in photography as backlit, and people won't be able to see your face. You'll be in a dark, dark shadow. So simple is better, and I've got a simple background behind me right now.
Yes, I was going to say exactly that. You actually practice what you preach. My background, on the other hand, I like to have something interesting going on, and I use this for my YouTube videos as well. So I like to have some plants in the background.
And as far as background goes too, try as best as you can not to have a background that allows little kids or dogs or cats to suddenly steal the show.
Yeah, I've seen that too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so any other tips about lighting, or was that all you wanted to say on lighting?
For lighting, you'll see probably the left side of my face is a little bit lit up more than my right side. And that's because I have the window to the left. And normally for my meeting, I'd be facing my window, but I've adjusted myself for this one to have a plain background. So it's not too bad right now, but I have something called a ring light. And a ring light can be purchased for $20 to $200. When COVID hit and Zoom happened, ring lights were tough to find. They were sold out anywhere. I got mine for $39. I'm very happy with it. But watch what happens when I turn it off.
Oh, yeah.
You can see I get more of a shadow.
Yes.
So it's not powerful enough to outcome or overdo my window to the left, but it does reduce it a little bit. And I also put this light off as well. So you can see I'm now in a shadow. So you know how you feel in your own life and you're happy working in this kind of environment, but look at yourself in the camera, look at yourself in Zoom. What are you appearing as? And right now it's not quite good. I'm looking like I'm quite dark over here. So excuse me while I put my ring light back on and the overhead lights.
Okay. And I also am sitting facing the window to get the natural light. And when you're shooting in the daytime, or when you're having this the Zoom meeting in the daytime, I think natural light, as long as you sit close to a window and face the window, works for most people. But like you said, there's also external things that you can purchase to improve your lighting.
And with lighting too, if you're using the natural light from a window, remember your daytime meetings and your evening meetings are quite different.
Yes, good point. Yes. So my next technical question, Harvey, is how close should you be to the camera?
I don't know what you're talking about. If for anybody who's watched or even participated in live theater. In live theater, you've got to be bigger in life. You've got to be talking really loud. Your hands got to go way out. But when you go film a movie or TV, just little subtle movements are detected. Now with Zoom, you can't do the big movements because your hands will go off the screen, and you want to do a little bit more subtle, tinier movements because people can see your face. I'm back a little bit so you can see part of my body. I could even be back further and you can see a little bit more of my body if I want to do something with hand movements or displaying something. But really, you want to see my facial expressions to see, am I telling the truth or am I looking off to the right and lying for everything I say? So this, I think, is about appropriate. This is too much. And going back further, which I can't because the wall is right there, might be a little bit too far away unless you have a prop that you need to display.
Okay, so right now, what would you say is the distance between you and your camera?
Well, every camera, and forget the technical word of Zoom as a software, but just the Zoom part of the camera is different. So I happen to be about maybe 2.5 feet or almost a meter, but that could vary per camera, per laptop, per whatever. So I don't think the distance is appropriate as what you look like on screen or what your camera is doing.
Okay, sounds good. I think the rule of thumb I follow is that I should look something like a passport photo. So, you know, my face and maybe a little bit of my upper half of my body should show.
Even a passport photo where you can't smile, you just go look mad or mean.
Yeah, and I also tried that because I do tend to speak with my hands a lot. I try that I am not, my hands are still in the frame.
Yeah, with the hand movement part, it's tough because we're used, well, I don't have Italian blood, but the people who talk with their hands a lot, and when you do public speaking, you do, all of a sudden if you watch in Zoom, they appear like they're like puppets coming out of nowhere. So that can be annoying after a while. So, and as I mentioned earlier, you can't do these, I caught a fish, it was this big, and nobody knows what I'm talking about. So you have to do smaller movements, and what somebody has dubbed the T-Rex, like the big dinosaur, the T-Rex movements. Keep your hands here and don't let them go too far out. Oh, the fish was that big, and those kind of things. So they're not popping up and they're not going off the screen. So think T-Rex if you want to do hand movements.
That's a wonderful analogy to remember this, T-Rex hands, yes. I think especially for people like you and me who have been training and speaking offline, we've always been told big, big, big hand movements, but now it's kind of the opposite. So you kind of have to unlearn what you've been learning for years.
Yes.
Yeah, and T-Rex hands is a good way to remember it. I don't think I'll ever forget that now. Okay, so now my next question, you can call it a technical question or maybe it's a not technical question. A big part of being an effective public speaker is eye contact. So I am always in a dilemma when I'm doing a virtual meeting. Should I be looking at you on my screen or should I be looking at my camera like that? Because I want to make you think that I'm paying attention and listening to you, but at the same time, I want to see the expressions on your face. And even in this meeting, I have had that dilemma and not been very sure where to look. So what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are mixed. First of all, try to look at the camera. Typically on a laptop, it's just a little tiny dot on the very top and center. And if you're looking at the camera, you feel a little bit warm. Watch me as I'm now watching my screen a little bit more, and now I'm watching you. Not quite as warm, not terrible, but not quite as warm. However, we're human. I think it was the movie Up that made the famous like squirrel, and you wanted to look at something. So if you see something move on the screen, your eyes go there. If you have what is called gallery view or the old-fashioned Brady Bunch view, if you see a whole bunch of people on your screen, you're going to be looking at them and seeing what they're doing, especially if you're saying something. How are they reacting? Are they laughing? Are they crying? Are they falling asleep? So it's a tough question. I should look as often as possible at that little camera lens because I'm going to be the warmest there. But we're human. We get distracted by squirrel. And we also need to see feedback too. If we're in gallery view, what are people reacting to what we're saying?
Okay, excellent. I think I would have to agree with that. So somewhere in the middle is probably the right answer. Okay, so next question is, you have tremendous amount of experience speaking on stage, speaking in front of people in meetings. And now in the past year, you've had a lot of Zoom experience as well. What would you say are some of the differences?
Well, the differences already mentioned are the hand movements. If you're used to going like that, you can't do that anymore. The differences are, the most common one is people start speaking with their mic not on. And even
Yes.
some of them, you can tell them a dozen times, and the next time they speak, they're going, and somebody has to go on and say, hey, your mic's not on. It's almost like if I could tell people, think you're an American Sign Language expert, the first thing you have to do is start moving your hands. While in Zoom, the first thing you have to do is, when it's your turn to speak, move your hand. You got to get that mic on. Otherwise, that happens so often, it's going to continue to happen because some people, it's just not in their intuition to do that.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think the most common phrase in all the Zoom meetings I have been on is, oh, you're on mute, or oops, I didn't realize I was on mute.
Yes.
Definitely said by pretty much every speaker at least once in most meetings.
Oh, I've done it too, especially in the early times, but there are some people that it just is not intuitive. They're going to have trouble with it for maybe forever.
You have delivered speeches for Toastmasters meetings as well as contests. Are there any lessons that you had to learn the hard way?
You mean pre-Zoom or post-Zoom?
Post-Zoom, and maybe these lessons could be either something that you learned by making your own mistakes, or perhaps you watched other people do some mistakes and you learned from them.
The first thing is related to the squirrel thing. The squirrel in a Toastmasters contest, you are timed, and as somebody who has gone to the district level in a humorous contest, which is as far as you can go, and I spoke for 7:34, which means I was 4 seconds over and disqualified. I know the importance of timing. With Zoom though, the lights come right at you on a screen if it's done properly. So you have to be prepared for that squirrel. You might be in the middle of a great joke. You might be in the middle of something really intense and purposeful, and all of a sudden a green light comes on. You can't let yourself get distracted by that. You've got to know your speech, know your timing well, so that around this time of that joke, around this time of the serious message, you're expecting a light to pop on to remind you you've got a minute left or 2 minutes left, and not get distracted by it. That's something that's need to be learned. Another thing that sadly needs to be learned is in the real world, when you tell a joke, people laugh. In the Zoom world, you tell a joke and it's silent. You have now a more appreciation for actors doing filming where they're telling jokes to a camera and they have no audience feedback if it was the best joke on the planet or if it was terrible. And you have to get used to that in Zoom. Less direct, immediate feedback. Basically, you're talking to yourself.
Excellent. And for people who may not be familiar with the Toastmasters contests and speech timing, the lights that Harvey was talking about are the red, yellow, and green light that is displayed to you. I guess in Zoom, how they do it is they just show up, they just make the screen red, yellow, and green.
There's various ways to do it. That's what I will call a professional way of doing it, where the actual person who's called the timer makes their screen completely green or completely yellow or completely red. Or it can be as simple as holding up a green piece of paper or a red piece of paper. It could be as simple as that.
Right. So yeah. So for those people who are not familiar with Toastmasters, those are the lights that Harvey was referring to. But I think that applies to any distractions. I guess maybe if your email notifications are on and an email pops on, that could be distracting too. So
yeah, well, that's the whole working from home thing with Zoom. Typically, if you went to an office to do things, your distractions were there, but your home, which is your 24-hour-a-day home, you don't think of turning off the dog, turning off the cat, turning off the kids, turning off your fax, turning off your home phone, turning off your business phone, turning off your cell phone, turning off the doorbell. All those things can and will happen.
Yes, totally, totally. And there's so many funny memes and funny videos on the internet because of all those things happening.
Yes.
So if you are the meeting host on a virtual meeting, Zoom or otherwise, what would be some of the things that you should and should not do as a meeting host?
It's really tough to remember this one. If you are the host, this is now Zoom talk only. If you are the host and you have not assigned a co-host, do not leave the meeting first, because as soon as you leave the meeting, poof, everybody's dead. The meeting is gone. I've done that, and I've been involved with other people doing that. So if you're the host, quickly, immediately assign some co-hosts, whether it be one person or 22 people, get some co-hosts out there so that if you suddenly go, the meeting does not die. Get to know your controls. Now Zoom is on one side relatively simplistic. You can immediately start using it quite quickly, but there's a lot of controls that if you go inside of them, there's even more controls inside of the controls, sub-controls for each thing you want to do. But get to know some basic ones. A couple of them would be how to silence somebody. It doesn't mean somebody's being rude or trying to bomb the meeting. Just their phone might ring, or their kids might yell, or their music might be blaring and they don't even know it. And you can turn their mic off, know how to do that so that the other people can continue on with their meeting. And turning somebody's camera off as well, in case they're doing something that probably shouldn't be seen by other people.
Okay, and what about the chat feature? Like, should that be kept on or off? Like, do you find that's distracting or no?
It definitely can be distracting. There's no doubt about that. But I do like the feature. As with any meeting, whether it's Zoom or not, there are some people that feel compelled to say what they think to the crowd at any moment's notice, and they chat more than their fair share. Other people do it appropriately. Now with chat, you can direct your comments to only one person, or you can direct it to everyone. And yes, there can be mistakes there when they want to just send me a comment and then all of a sudden, oops, I sent that to everyone. So that's not so much a Zoom host function, but just yourself as a host or just a participant, get to know chat, how to use it. Be polite, don't overuse it. Know when you're talking to one person, when you're talking to everybody. But as a host, you can turn it off or on. The same with sharing a screen. That probably baffles a lot of people. And some people need to do it. They need to share a PowerPoint or a Word document or something on the internet. You need to know how to share the screen, and you need to have it turned on so they can share the screen. But having it turned on for anybody to do it is one idea to do it, or only assigning co-hosts that are allowed to do that is another way to restrict the capability. If you have a meeting of many hundreds of people, you might want to watch out for that not having it open for anybody to share the screen, because all it takes is one bad apple to suddenly start sharing something totally inappropriate, and the whole meeting is now a little bit gone sideways. There's probably one more thing in there for the host as well. I can't think of it right now.
Okay, if you remember it, feel free to add it later on. And now my favorite question, I saved it for the end.
Oh, before you go to the question,
yes.
I thought of it. It's the breakout rooms.
Yes, good point.
So hosts can assign breakout rooms. And basically, it's a Zoom inside of a Zoom. So if you've got 100 people in a Zoom meeting, you could assign 2 or 4 or 10 breakout rooms, and you could have 6 people in one and 8 people in another. And they go off into like a totally different world, and they have their own meeting room to themselves for a bit. It's a great way of breaking off subgroups to people to go talk about the specific topics and then come back to the larger audience and either share or maybe not share if they were just doing a private discussion. So get to learn about breakout rooms. Some people have a hard time comprehending what they are or how they work, but once you get comfortable with them, They are a beautiful feature, and it allows a big meeting to have sub meetings and call everybody back to the main meeting. That really works well.
Okay, that is good to know. I did not know all that about the breakout rooms.
And
So yes.
if you're getting down to one last question, I have a couple more ideas or tips I want to share.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I've seen this. This is really, really, really low tech, but I've seen people. You're kind of fuzzy. Your camera's not working well. What kind of operating system do you have? How old is your camera? What's your internet speed? What was the solution? Just go to the camera and clean it. It's like for those who wear glasses, you know, glasses eventually get dirty. Even sunglasses eventually get dirty. Windows eventually get dirty. Well, so do cameras. So clean your camera every so often. One thing as well, Zoom, most people are on Zoom with Wi-Fi. You know, the odd one has a hardwired Ethernet connection to it. But if you're on wireless and you're going to be having regular meetings, try something that checks out your internet speed at various places in your house. I use something called speedtest.net, www.speedtest.net. Go to the main places you're going to have a meeting, maybe your bedroom, your office, your living room, your dining room, your basement, especially your basement. Go to each one and run speedtest.net. It will take less than a minute, and you will know how fast your internet connection is. Basement walls cause a weird havoc with Wi-Fi. I won't say any more technical part of that, but they really do some strange things where you think, how come it's working here? It's not working here. It's because of the cement wall doing some strange things. I was doing some Zooms about 2 months ago, and I thought my internet speed was okay, but I checked with speedtest.net and it was not. I upgraded my speed, and now I don't freeze as much. The other people are complaining as much. And so you want a strong connection. And speedtest.net will help you find where your home's strong connection is.
Okay, thank you. Did not know about that testing the speed of your internet. Good resource to check out. And on the topic of cleaning the camera lens, I was smiling when I was listening to you saying that, because just before I started this meeting, I took the fabric that I use to clean my glasses, and you can just use the same one, and I rubbed it on my laptop's camera lens.
All right.
And that is something so easy to forget. It is super easy to forget. So any other tips that you think I did not ask you about?
No, I can't think of any more at the top of my head.
Okay. So my final question to you is, do you want to share any, maybe 1 or 2 funny incidents that happened during one of your Zoom meetings?
I keep thinking of that famous internet one where a girl had her camera on her phone as she went to the bathroom while attending a large meeting. And that was true and live, and I'm sure she's got 100 embarrassment points because of that. I've not seen something like that. I can't think of anything super embarrassing, but I have seen ones where people have had the husband or the wife suddenly comes into the room and, oops, sorry, you got a Zoom meeting. Or kids coming into the room who they don't know you're talking to 10 people or 100 people, and you're just dad or mom, and they want to talk to you right now. Or the famous doorbell, which is bad enough, and a dog going woof, woof, woof. Those are quite funny, but sometimes annoying as well. I think they were a little bit more tolerated and funny at the beginning. Now they're getting more annoyed. People should, if you're trying to act like a business at home, you should stifle or prepare for those moments so that they happen as least as possible. You can't stop a UPS driver from arriving to your house, but you can, maybe put up a sign, please don't ring doorbell, or something to that effect to limit and reduce those embarrassing moments.
Okay. Any other final thoughts, Harvey?
Don't be scared of Zoom. I've seen people that were absolutely terrified, and from a Toastmasters point of view, did not want contests or even meetings to continue. And now, months later, they're leading, they're having meetings, They're scheduling more. They're giving advice on how to run a meeting because they've experienced things themselves. So don't be scared. It's like riding a bicycle. You might skin your elbow or your knee on your first ride, but after that, it's going to be clear sailing ahead.
Very good advice. And I think that's one thing the pandemic has taught us is how to adapt and how to learn new things. And so many people have done that, not just with technology, but with so many other things, like people who never cooked are cooking now. And so many other beautiful examples of that adaptability and learning and just, just taking things as they come. So yay for Zoom and yay for Harvey for enlightening us today with all these technical and not so technical and even some psychological tips about, getting over the fear of the technology. So
and yay for Saprit.
Yeah, yes. So thank you so much, Harvey. I really appreciate you taking out your time today and doing this with me. You are the best person to give these tips, and I'm so glad you said yes to this. So looking forward to having you on some other time as well.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Okay, bye.
Bye.